Imagine you're a traveler in the 18th century, and you've been on the road for days, weeks, perhaps even months. You're tired, you're hungry, and you've endured everything that Mother Nature has thrown at you, as well as successfully avoided encounters with highwaymen. But now you're ready to get out of the elements and find a source of rest, relaxation, and possibly some entertainment. Suddenly, just in the distance, you detect a faint whiff of smoke in the air, and as you round the bend in the road, you locate the source of that smell, a tavern. Eagerly, as you pull up, you disembark from your wagon and pay the landlord at the counter for whatever you want, whether it be food, drink, and perhaps even a place to sleep. Drink in hand, you're going to make your way to the table to take your place amongst the other guests who are trading off news and stories of places they've been and things they've seen. But at some point, that conversation might dry up, and you're going to want to find other ways to entertain yourself. Well, in order to do that, you might want to try turning to the ubiquitous deck of playing cards. Now, playing cards have been around for hundreds of years, and are so widespread, in fact, that they can be found readily available at many places, from gas stations to dollar stores, and of course supermarkets. But at one point, playing cards were not readily available, and even if they had been, they would certainly strike us as odd in appearance to this day. Like many things, playing cards has a much longer and complex history than one typically thinks of. Now, we don't know for certain what year or location the first playing cards were being made, but historians speculate that they were being made at first in the Far East and were then picked up by gypsies, tradesmen, and even crusaders who would then bring them back to Europe. And it was in Western Europe in the late 13 and early 1400s that we first began to see mentions of playing cards in certain manuscripts. Take, for example, in 1377, the account of the German monk Johann, who not only mentions playing cards, but also talks about several different games that could be played with them. Interestingly enough, however, in terms of appearance, they would not be recognizable to us today in terms of the designs or suits, which for us is hearts, diamonds, spades, diamonds, and clubs. These at the time were swords, clubs, cups, and coins, a suit that is still used in Italy and Spain today and is often referred to as the Latin suits. But as playing cards rose in popularity, they were soon to become widespread, and as they went to each individual nation, gradually those nations in turn would add or detract a little thing here and there from these decks of playing cards to eventually give us the deck of 52 that we all know and love today. In fact, it was in the 14th century in Italy that the Italians came up with the crown suits of king, queen, and knave, or jack. In the 15th century, however, it was the French who gave us the suits that we are so familiar with today of queues, piques, diamants, and trèfles, which is hearts, spades, diamonds, or clovers, or as we call them today, clubs. It was also the French who came up with the bright idea to divide the four suits into two red and two black. And with the advent of better printing processes, such as stencils, playing cards could easily be mass manufactured. Combine that with the advent of better processes for manufacturing paper, it didn't take long for playing cards to spread across Europe and then make their way over the Channel to England. And it was in England that the colonies, or future United States, would end up making the bulk of the playing cards for us here in the backcountry. America, however, was somewhat late in making any kind of improvement or addition to the playing cards because at one point they heavily relied upon imported goods from England. Trade goods from England were so heavily relied upon and so important to the Americans at one point that in fact certain manufacturers of cards in the colonies would print the word London on the ace of spades to ensure commercial success. But perhaps more interestingly are the decks of playing cards that were to be found made by the Native Americans, who came up with their own suit symbols and designs. Possibly, of course, they had learned how to play cards from the settlers. But nonetheless, we know that playing cards in ordinaries or taverns were very, very common and a part of everyday life. We know that it was a wonderful source of entertainment, as well as a way to network or gossip, and possibly even make a little extra income. Well, folks, this has been another Fun Fact Friday here at the Crockett Tavern Museum, and we want to thank you all so much for coming along as we explore life as it was in the 18th and 19th century. For those of you who have been following along with us on Facebook and YouTube, we want to thank you so much for your continued support. And for those of you who are new to our page, please go ahead and follow, or on YouTube, click the like, share, and subscribe button, as well as the bell notification to receive updates for when we upload. As always, your support means a lot to us. But of course, the best means of support is by paying a visit to the Crockett Tavern Museum. And as always, our hours of operation as well as admissions fees will be listed in the description attached to this video. Well, folks, until next Friday, this is Isaac White signing off for now, saying goodbye and God bless.